My guest today is Sarah Sedgwick, an oil painter from Eugene, Oregon. Her work focuses mainly on still life, and she does some great portraiture as well. Her paintings are incredible. I can't wait to show you. They're bursting with confidence, colour, beautiful, painterly, economic brushwork. Sarah started a daily painting blog in 2008 and has used it to chronicle her art journey, hone her skills, and build an audience. She now has a really impressive following on social media and manages to inspire and encourage artists around the world. Teaching is an integral part of her creative work. She holds painting workshops in the US, as well as video lessons, and runs an online art mentorship program. I'm especially excited to interview Sarah, as a few years ago I discovered her work, and it gave me the confidence to get back into painting, practicing, and really enjoying art again. So Sarah, thank you for what you do, and welcome to the stream.
Thanks for that introduction, Jake. And I just love it that you shared that personal detail about yourself, about getting back into painting several years ago. And one of the inspirations was seeing my work. I had a really similar experience when I was starting my blog in 2008, as you mentioned. I was in my late 20s at the time. I had just made a major cross-country move, and I was ready for a big life change, really. I had after I got out of art school, I really didn't know how to get started with my art career, and I just kind of floundered around and did life stuff for more years than I like to admit. And then what happened for me sounds a lot like what happened for you.
So how are you, and where are you joining us from?
I am actually fine.
Good, right.
Luckily, everyone that I know is healthy and safe here, and I'm joining you from Eugene, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest in the US.
At what time did you realize art was your passion? Can you tell us how it all started? I think you started quite young, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil. My mom claims I could draw a perfect circle at the age of 1. I think that's probably an exaggeration. I have been drawing as long as I can remember, though. It was mostly like princesses and little doodles, but
Cool.
I was really started in art lessons really early. I come from a creative family. My father is a cellist, he's a classical musician. And
Wow.
so it was a family where like, having a career in the arts was realistic and accepted. And so I feel really lucky for that.
When did you fall in love with still life in particular?
I've thought back to my college, my art school training though, and I do remember that there were a couple of times that I had painted a still life from life, just like twice during that whole time, and that there was a click there. The paintings were like they had something. They had something that my other work was not capturing.
The daily blog and your social posts are so inspiring. We can do so much thinking about art, where in reality, the best thing to do is just practice. What is your routine like? And are you still painting almost every day?
No, I'm not painting every day now, unfortunately. I did the real traditional daily painting
Hmm.
for about 2 or 3 years, and then teaching started to happen,
Yeah.
and that changed it a lot. About five, four, 4 years ago, I started mentoring online, and I was already teaching workshops. I've been teaching workshops since I think 2012. I don't know where the time has gone.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I agree with what you said about the best way to improve is just to do it. And
Yeah.
I have like lots of thoughts and opinions about that. And the first few years that I did daily painting, I was just throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck,
Mm.
including like what kind of style I wanted to paint in, what kind of subject matter I wanted to paint in, what sizes, what formats. I even did plein air for a few years in an insane
Cool.
attempt to see if I could get down with that, which I could not. So there's that on the one hand. There's do it a lot and you will improve. On the other hand, intentional practice is also
Yes.
very valuable.
No,
And
of
when I started
course.
teaching more intensely, the I've gotten so much out of teaching over the years. One of the things is exactly what you mentioned in the beginning. You said inspiring people who've gotten away from painting to get back into it and have that in their lives again, because I had that experience so profoundly. But the other piece is purely selfish, I have to say. Teaching makes me a better painter.
Building your style, was there any particular uh, breakthrough moment that you can remember?
Thing that happens when you put the brush on the canvas a lot, which is what I was doing back then. It wasn't that I was making a lot of good paintings. I was making a lot of really mediocre
Sure.
paintings, but I could start to see my style emerge. And that's how it happens. A lot of students come to me and they say, my goal is to find my artistic voice. I want to find my style. And I say, that's great. You can do that. I can help you. Because oftentimes people will see your style before you can.
I often say to people, your style exists like almost like a fingerprint or a signature. You know, it is there and it will always be there, you know, and it's, you're almost just developing it. And do you see what I mean? Like, you can't get rid of it if you tried.
Right? It's a
Yeah.
fingerprint. I totally agree. But like a fingerprint, you gotta make the print, or else you can't use it for anything. So yeah, it's like, I think it's one of the most exciting journeys that an artist can take in their life, is just investigating their own personal style as it's coming out.
You teach, you do teach in quite a structured approach, starting with a thumbnail sketch, value study, underpainting, and then a final painting. Do you always follow this method, this process? And what do you find some of the benefits of working in that way?
Planning and thinking about the fundamentals on a regular basis is so, it's so helpful. It's been so helpful.
We're so eager to just jump in and get to that final painting, right?
I see students over and over again, they just don't feel like they're painting if the brush isn't on the canvas and moving. I get it. One thing I'm always pushing is that time spent mixing colors is time spent painting. Robert Henry in The Art Spirit, he says, you're going to spend that time somewhere during the painting process, that mixing time, that thinking time, that looking time. Do you want to space it out in little bits throughout the whole painting part, or do you want to take care of some of it up front so you can then just sort of let it all hang out when you're on the canvas?
Be present, be focused, yeah.
And so I do not do a thumbnail sketch or a value study for every painting that I make, but if I'm working bigger than 12 by 12, I'm doing something, whether that's ballpoint pen, Sharpie, and white marker on tan paper, which is a pretty low-key, low-tech way to do it, or on Procreate on the iPad, value studies, super fast, or painting in black and white oils, which I love and I think is an amazing way to become a better painter. So my still life workshops, as opposed to my portrait workshops, my still life workshops kind of divide this way. I've got one that walks you through all those steps, from thumbnail through a black and white value study, through the underpainting, and then full color. And then my other workshop is more focused on the limited palette and how we can do quick studies or quick exercises to get some energy back.
Since the pandemic, a lot of classes have gone online, and I know you're an advocate for painting from life. Do you have any tips for our viewers when they're painting from a photo reference? How can they keep that energy, that impressionism?
So the problems with working from photos is that a lot of the information that we think is there is not there. We really believe the photo.
Sure.
One of the things that the camera does a lot is draw edges or lines where they aren't really there, to show us the difference between one object and another, the contrast that's there. And when I'm painting with people, I'm saying squint, squint, squint. That's probably some of the best painting advice you'll ever get, because it takes some of that information that your eyes are getting so acutely out, get off the table, so we can find lost edges. And you mentioned, how do you stay loose and painterly when you're working from photos? You look for opportunities to create lost edges. The camera may not give you that information. So edges are one of the most critical. I think value relationships, and then edges. And that's all painting is, right?
Sure.
You paint it any color you want, as long as you match those value relationships. Color matching is not that critical to representational painting. But learning how to create hard edges and soft edges, and then learning where to look for the potential for lost edges, those are kind of more technical things that come from physical practice. But yeah, an understanding of how to manipulate those tools. So a soft edge is going to help something turn away from your eye in space, like an egg or something that's turning away from you.
What do you look for when you're setting up a still life? And do you have a favorite subject?
It's funny. I get the favorite subject question a lot,
Sure.
and I should come up with a good answer for this. The truth is, I go through these phases with things where I'll become obsessed with something, paint it like a dozen times, and then move on, and then usually come back to it a year or so later, because I do repeat things a lot. So right now, I'm totally obsessed with this little antique silver cream pitcher, which if you've been watching my work for the last year, you have seen this thing dozens of times. I cannot stop painting it.
Sarah, do you have any mantras or something you tell yourself when you're painting? Like you're starting a painting, right? Perhaps like a weakness and you're trying to bring yourself back on track. Anything like that?
Oh yeah. Knowing your knowing your common issues is pretty important. Like for example, when I paint portrait, have this tendency to make the model 10 years older and 10 pounds fatter by the
Yeah,
time my painting is finished. So I can fight that, and I know of ways to actively work against that. How do you
sure.
make somebody look younger and thinner? I've got a couple goals when I'm painting. I want to move on from an area before it's finished. So
Right.
giving each area of the painting a chance to be done all on its own without me having to make sure that it's 100% finished before I move on is really critical to the finished look of my paintings, because often I don't I'm not 100% sure I'm finished with like that lemon before I move on to working in the negative space, and I want to move on before I'm finished. So
Right.
when I turn on the internal monologue and I'm talking while I'm demoing, like you'll hear me say over and over, okay, it's time to move on. Time to move on. Let's go over here. And I don't always do it, but I can hear myself saying it in my head.
Something we ask all our guests, Sarah, is what's your favorite art book?
Ooh, my favorite art book. So I have a few, and
Oh, you can only choose one.
oh,
No, I'm kidding. Go on.
so well, how about we can break it down into art books with pictures and art books without pictures.
Brilliant.
So Sargent is my favorite painter, and I love looking at Sargent art books. But I have to say that I just got the book The Art of Still Life by Todd Casey. It's a new book. It just came out about 6 months ago, and
Wow.
it's
Okay.
really knocking my socks off this year. I'm actually going to do a book club discussion with my online mentorship group in August about this book. We've all got
Fantastic.
it. Loving it. So The Art of Still Life by Todd M. Casey. That's my current favorite art book with pictures. And I guess two books. The Art Spirit by Robert Henry that I mentioned earlier. Yeah,
Love it.
fantastic. But I'll tell you, I read that in art school and I didn't understand it. And then I read it again 6 years later and went, where has this book been all my life? Like I
Yeah.
just couldn't get, I had to paint my way into understanding it.
It's fantastic. It really is.
Fantastic. And the other one is Hawthorne on painting.
Oh, right. I don't know about that
Hawthorne.
one.
Yeah, it's a real small book. It's not actually written by Charles Hawthorne, but it's a compilation of lectures and critiques by him. And I read this book twice a year. It's fantastic.
What do you think is the best piece of painting advice you've ever been given or have read?
Squinting is a really solid piece of painting advice.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. And that's really tied up with this idea, this quote. I don't know who to attribute the quote to, but someone said it to me several years ago, and I've never forgotten it, that color gets all the credit in painting, but value does all the work. I think, here's another piece. I'll tell you the worst piece of painting advice I ever got.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so I got some advice a while back that I should only put out my best work. I should only put my best work out there. So I understand this advice, but truthfully, I am not a very good judge of what my best work is. If I only put out the work I did that I thought was the best, I would look like a very different artist to everyone. To be honest, the paintings of mine that I make that I like the most tend to stay with me forever, or
Sure.
much longer than the others that I just think, yeah, it's good enough. So I'm a good judge.
I think that's so true. You know, that you're connected with that bad piece or something in so many ways, and you've got so many problems with it, perhaps. But someone else, it could be their favorite of yours. You know,
Yes.
it really could. And actually, I missed the question. I was going to ask you. You're so prolific with your painting and your posts. I just wondered if you ever had a bad day, you know, and paint a dud and think that's going in the bin, you know, like does that ever happen?
Yeah, and so I'm not the judge of what my best work is going to be, but I am a pretty good judge of when my work is garbage and it needs to be destroyed.
Sure.
I don't put so instead of only putting out my best work, I just don't put out the garbage.
Yeah.
Good news and bad news. The more you paint, the more bad days you're going to have, just statistically. And so if you feel like you're having a lot of bad days, that probably means that you are painting a lot, and improving is my guess, because that's one major way that we improve is by painting a lot. So yeah, I have bad days. They happen less often than they used to. And a lot of the time they occur because I'm trying to paint a subject that I'm just not that into.
My brother Max, you saw him earlier. He's also a big fan of your work, and he wants to ask, do you eat the fruit after you're done painting with
it? Sometimes. So yeah, there will be times like after a workshop when I'll just have a counter covered with random stuff. Do I eat it? So I do have a saying or a concept that I'm trying to push on the world, that it's good luck to eat your still life. So whether I eat it or I get somebody else to eat it, I do like to get my still life.
That's really
eaten.
nice.
Yes, I do.
So everyone, I just want to recommend that you go follow Sarah on Instagram at Sedgwick Studio. Sarah, your work really is a joy to look at. And if anyone's learning to paint, Sarah's tips, you know, her content's brilliant. So really, I do recommend you go and follow Sarah. Sarah, I hear you've got some fantastic video lessons and one that you've just finished. Where can people find them?
So I have 2 really beautiful video-based workshops. Download, work through them at your own pace. You have the videos forever. And those are both being sold through the Kara Bullock Art Studio. There's 2 videos. One is Oil Painting Bootcamp, the 3-color and white workshop that we talked about before. And the brand new one is Zorn Palette Portrait. And both were shot this year in 2020. But I also have a lot of YouTube videos. So for an introduction to my teaching style and to see a little bit of what my upstairs home studio looks like, you can check out my YouTube videos for free.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers? So you're coming to the UK, you know, anything else?
Yes, I'm coming to the UK for the first time ever. I have not taught overseas before, and I'm super excited. Courtyard Art Studio in Buckinghamshire will be the week of March 19th. And we're going to do 2 3-day workshops and a 2-day workshop. So there's plenty of opportunities to sign up. It's all still life based. And we might do a public demo one of the evenings as well. Thanks for listening. And I really appreciate you, Jake, and this interview. And I'm going to subscribe to your channel and watch all your shows. I know you and the viewers are about to do a paint along and work from still life reference. And I guess as you're going through, just keep in mind, you don't need to finish any one area before moving on to the next area. Work a little bit all around the painting so you have something to compare everything else to. And also squint a lot. You're looking for value relationships, not color matching. And also put that paint down and leave it alone. Because the more times you touch in any one area, the more you're blending away your value differences, your beautiful brushwork, and turning everything into this kind of mid-tone mush. So put it down, leave it alone. That's how you'll keep that freshness and looseness in your work.
Thank you, Sarah. That's brilliant. Okay, we're going to go and paint inspired by your style now. Thank you so much. It's been, you know, really amazing to have you on the stream. Have a great day, and we'll see you when you come to the UK, hopefully.
Awesome. I'll see you next year. Have a great show. Bye.
Bye-bye.